Monster trade in the NBA yesterday. Does everybody just cost 4 first-round picks minimum now? What does that mean for Charlotte? Does it mean anything for the Hornets? And because we missed Friday, sorry about that, people. We got 2 mock drafts for you. I don't know if Doug has 2. I just put him on the spot, though. So we'll see if you get fined too, Doug. Today, Locked On Hornets. Let's do it.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Maybe 3. We might put 3 on you. Put 3 on your plate.
I'm just one man.
Day 52 of 61. We're getting close, folks, with the mock drafts, all of the mock drafts. It's Walker Mail. It's Doug Branson. It's Locked On Hornets, your team every day on Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. Hey, speaking of those 2 hosts I was talking about, Doug Branson has a Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He also has another podcast, Locked On NBA, with Matt Moore and Hayes, and I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Wow, big trade yesterday. And because of what we've talked about regarding the Hornets, feel like it's pretty easy to find the local angle here. So I'm struggling a little bit with the phlegm, and I'm struggling a little bit with the trade and how to wrap my head around it. I know you were like, yeah, I'm struggling with the trade too. That makes sense. No, I'm struggling with more issues. If you wanted to read some of the details that I put in the rundown, that would be great while I mute my mic and then get over what I'm going through right now.
All right, so the Memphis Grizzlies traded Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic for KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. That's the same guy. I just wanted to do the abbreviation and then the name. Cole
both
Anthony.
Both of them? They didn't trade for both of them? Okay. Wow. Desmond Bane costs a lot.
Same guy. Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first-round picks and 1 first-round pick swap. Orlando sent Memphis the number 16 pick in the 2025 NBA draft, its 2026 first-round pick, which includes swap rights with the Phoenix Suns or the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets, and its 2028 and 2030 unprotected first-round selections. The pick swap is top 2 protected in 2029. That's a lot. All of these trades are so complicated these days, but the bottom line is it's 4 unprotected first-round picks. There's a first-round pick swap in there, and one of those pick swaps is 2026, and that involves the Hornets, who get the worst pick of like 4 teams. So it's going to end up with the Hornets in 2026 via the Yusuf Nurkic deal with Phoenix last season or this past season. They are going to get the worst of like 4 teams. So it's going to probably end up in the 20s.
So Desmond Bane is a really good player. Okay. The guy averages over 20 points per game each of the last 4 seasons. If you exclude his rookie year, he's been in the league 5 years. The last 4 years, he's been averaging more than 20 a game. He does so with great efficiency. He can shoot, man. He's shooting above 40% each of the last 4 years. Hasn't shot anything less than 38%. Nothing less than 38% his entire NBA career to this point. Even 2-point percentage, Doug, like even inside the 3-point arc, he gets it done not just from a spot-up shooter standpoint, and he can also, get to his spots to a certain degree, but he plays off ball, and that's a really valuable piece. I really like Desmond Bane. I like him a lot. He was a name I threw out there when we were discussing who the Hornets could possibly go after, when we discussed taking a swing, when we discussed taking a risk, giving up a decent amount to go get somebody to put alongside the core, however many you have. The core 3, even if it doesn't sound as fun as core 4, it's probably a little more accurate than saying core 4. Core 2 is the most accurate that you have with this Charlotte team. But putting Bane next to those guys and perhaps trying to create a core 3 with LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Desmond Bane, that would have made sense. I did not expect him to go for 4 unprotected first and a pick swap. That's a lot. That's a ton that you're giving up to go after somebody that's never made an all-star team, going after somebody that's never made an all-defensive team, going after someone that can't be an offensive hub, but is really valuable off the ball. And before we move on just this trade specifically, it does represent what we've seen really since 2022, I'd say, Doug. There have been trades like this where, those are fringe to just outright all-stars, but like still only a few appearances, and they've gotten a lot more than people thought they'd go for. For instance, we can start with Rudy Gobert back in 2022 when he was traded to Minnesota. It was the same as Bane, 4 unprotected first, a pick swap, but you also get Walker Kessler, so a little bit more for Gobert. Mikal Bridges, that was a big trade. Traded for 5 first-round picks, a pick swap, and a second-round pick to boot. Donovan Mitchell, when Cleveland went after him. Donovan Mitchell was traded for Markkanen, Sexton, Agbaji, which all 3 of those guys are valuable in their own right. Agbaji was a rookie at the time. 3 firsts and 2 swaps. Okay, that's about right. And then Pascal Siakam was traded for 3 first-round picks, and that's the one that I felt like was the closest to equal 100 cents on the dollar type value, but still people thought maybe the Pacers paid a little too much for Siakam at the time, but it really wasn't all that egregious. It felt fine, right? That one felt like the most to equal value to all the other trades. Doug, is this just the price of doing business now for taking a swing for guys that aren't franchise players? But Donovan Mitchell was kind of a franchise player. Is this just the price to pay for either close to franchise players or just a tier below that out there in the NBA?
Well, I think it's all depends on the player and the situation. I mean, for Orlando, they already had their 2 stars to boot. It's not like they were looking for star power to insert into a bunch of role players. They have Banchero and they have Wagner, and so they were just ready to compete now. And their bet is the same bet that Minnesota made with Rudy, that New York made with Mikal, and that Cleveland made with Donovan, which is, look, we can trade 3 unprotected first. It doesn't matter because we're going to be good. We already have star power here. We're adding this player in. We're going to be good. We're going to compete in the playoffs. And so those picks are not going to be that awesome anyway. And all of those bets so far are paying off, including Mikal. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing to consider is that Desmond Bane has playoff experience. And not only does he have playoff experience, he performed extremely well in the playoffs. He's a player that can play off ball, but he's also a player that's very comfortable playing on ball, particularly when players are injured, which is perfect for Orlando because they just went through a season where Banchero missed a bunch of time, Wagner missed a bunch of time, Jalen Suggs missed a bunch of time. So if you're going to bring a player into that system, you want to make sure that they can also take. He's like a perfect player in that, like he's okay with being off ball, but when the time comes, he can be that on ball guy. That's a super valuable player. So I'm not sure that any of that really translates to the Hornet situation when you're talking about LaMelo Ball, who's not playing a single playoff game, or Miles Bridges. That's what makes these decisions so difficult to translate to the Charlotte Hornets when you're talking about the value that they could get back for LaMelo Ball and the value that they could get back for Miles Bridges. Plus, Desmond Bane has never made a defensive player he's never made an all-defensive team, but he plays defense. Like he's committed to that end of the floor, and he was playing a huge role on a Memphis team that did pride itself. It wasn't the grit and grind Memphis team, but it still prided itself on playing both ends. And, didn't have as extensive an injury history, did miss some time in 23-24 and 22-23, but didn't have as extensive an injury issue as LaMelo Ball does. So all that to say, I just don't think that this really tells us much about what the Hornets could get back for LaMelo Ball or Miles Bridges.
Well, I think that's a separate discussion, right? For sure. It's something we should talk about. I guess the Hornets connection for me, Doug, this is a podcast that has talked about the Hornets taking a swing, taking a risk at some point. Orlando, in a different situation, just went after Desmond Bane, and I can't talk. Just went after Desmond Bane. There you go. I had to pause the mic for a little bit. Okay, just went after Desmond Bane, gave him 4 first-round picks and a pick swap. Now, if we're talking about the Hornets taking a risk and really trying to go make the playoffs, Desmond Bane was a guy that made sense, right? Like, not Jaren Jackson, not John Morant, the 3rd best player on a team that used to be pretty good a few years ago. Okay, maybe you go after him. I thought it would be to the tune of, honestly, I thought they'd probably ask for 3 first for Desmond. An extra unprotected first and a pick swap, that's a big deal, right? That's a lot more value with those two added on for the 3 first that I thought it would take to go get them. If you don't think it's worth it for the Hornets right now to take that kind of swing,
it wouldn't have been.
But this is my point, right? Because we're nudging the Hornets to do something and take a swing, take a big one, and go take the risk. What does that look like? So
I don't think now is the time to send off 4 or 5 picks. To me, I think do something can mean a lot of different things. I think they could add some veteran talent using an asset or two to help answer some of the questions that you need to answer to make that big swing. That's what I'm saying. Orlando knows what they have in Franz Wagner. They know what they have in Paolo Banchero. And I don't think they need to answer those questions anymore. And so they were ready to make their move, and they did it. And they knew that if they made that move, that they were going to be good enough where those picks weren't going to be, lottery picks that would come back to like haunt them and say, oh, they really should have kept those. And they knew, and they also know that if it all falls apart, that they're going to be able to, they have enough talent in Banchero and Wagner to move that talent to regain those pick assets back. None of that exists for the Charlotte Hornets. There is no sure thing. Like if you brought Bane here, no one was going to say, well, yep, Charlotte's going to be in contention for top 4 seed. For Orlando, they're looking at a weekend Eastern Conference and saying, we had one of the top defenses already. And hey, look, defense is winning in the NBA right now in the NBA playoffs. Hello. And we can do this. And we're okay going into the second apron. We're so sure about our talent. There are no sure things with this Charlotte Hornets roster right now, so you can't take that swing. And 4 first-round picks unprotected from Charlotte mean a whole different thing than 4 from Orlando right now.
No, that's all true. I will say, I feel like we haven't talked in that space a lot. I feel like when we talk about taking a risk, we discuss really going in and trying to make the postseason. Oftentimes, we're saying you got to get to the postseason in order to be consistent getting to the playoffs. We talk about taking the risk and trading a couple picks with the Miami pick, with the Dallas pick,
for
and really going after
a superstar, sure, not for Desmond Bane. Orlando can do that. Orlando can make that calculation because they already have the star power.
I understand that. What I'm saying is, going back and comparing this conversation to other conversations that we've had on this podcast, where we're screaming, honestly, for the Hornets to take a risk, right? If you're really talking about taking a risk to me isn't signing Tobias Harris. That's not, I mean, it's like a 2-year, $50 million deal. You can call it a bad contract, but it's not a real risk. If we're talking about going in on something and trying to figure out how to make the postseason a top 6 spot, not even a top 4, top 6, my point is it probably does take going after a Desmond Bane, right? But now you're trying to go after, you're trading 4 first-rounders, which you and I both agree the Hornets shouldn't trade 4 first-rounders right now and a pick swap, which means
not for Desmond Bane.
What? So if that's the case, what does the risk look like? Right? Like, that's my point. You can't get rid of 4 first-round picks, and if 4 first-rounders gets you Desmond Bane, well, does 2 first-rounders get you, God, I don't even know, like, enough to move the needle at all for you to get to the postseason? It's just the price for a Mikal Bridges, a Desmond Bane, is otherworldly. It used to be you traded the 4 first and swaps for the stars. But now what you're doing is you're trading the 4 first and swaps for guys that are like secondary, tertiary. In Mikal Bridges' case,
it's different. It's different when Orlando does it. It's different when New York does it because their situation is different. That makes it wholly different from the Hornets, who have not made the playoffs since 15-16 to give away 4 first-round picks. That it's just way riskier. They don't have as many questions answered, and missing on that would mean a lot more to the Charlotte Hornets than it would be to Orlando. If Bane doesn't work out in Orlando, that's going to be tough for them, but they can still pivot off of that. So, Charlotte wouldn't have that opportunity.
Right. And I don't know if maybe I'm not articulating this as well enough, so I'm going to try to bring this home. You're right I agree with you. I don't think trading the 4 first-rounders for Desmond Bane would have been the move for the Hornets to make. But you said it's way riskier, and the Hornets aren't in that situation. Does that mean that we're going to be easier on the Hornets for not taking the risk this go around, right? Because the Hornets, I agree with you, aren't in that Orlando situation. So if they're not in that Orlando situation or in any of these other situations, and then they don't take the swing to go for the postseason and try to build around Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball with the limited cap space that they have, the only way they can really get it done is through trades. But if they have to get rid of a lot of first-round picks to go get somebody that helps them get to the postseason now, then are we going to be okay when they don't do that because they're in a different situation from these other squads? And what I'm saying is I don't know if we've talked about it in that space the way we're talking about it now. And so for me, the Desmond Bane trade really put it into perspective. If you really are wanting to take a risk like that, buddy, it's going to cost way more than you originally thought, because it's going to take 4 first-rounders and a swap to go get Bane, which is why I'm like, we're not going to see much action, man. This is it. This is the thing. We're going to be poking the Hornets with a stick, and they're going to be chilling because they're not in the right situation, and we're going to just see how it all plays out going into the next year. We can finish some of those thoughts on the other side. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We'll finish some of those thoughts, plus Tre Johnson. Is he the biggest bust of the guys that we're talking about that could be there for Charlotte to take at 4 or somewhere in that range? That's still to come, LOH. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start actually building wealth. They give you easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Plus, it gives you all-in-one convenience. You can, instead of juggling multiple apps, now use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan for those long-term goals. And you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Final thoughts on Desmond Bane, or if there is anybody that would thread the needle in what we've been discussing for a large part of this offseason of doing the thing that tries to get to the postseason and lock a top 6 spot while also not mortgaging your future. That move out there? It's interesting to me. Final thoughts.
Do something that can get LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller to the playoffs. Not a top 6 seed, not a lock, not a competitor in the Eastern Conference in the sense of Eastern Conference Finals, but do something to get these guys playoff experience so you can answer some of the questions required of you in order to give up 4 first-rounders. You got to be on the doorstep. They're not even close to the doorstep. They're standing out in the parking lot. Once they get on the doorstep, then we can talk about 4 first-round picks for a guy like Desmond Bane. I think it's a perfect move for Orlando. And honestly, they're not even in the same position as the Grizzlies are, because the Grizzlies have answered, I think, some of those questions. It'll be interesting to see, if they're looking at full rebuild, if they've looked at the playoff situation and say, hey, this doesn't work, let's come to terms with that. We'll move Bane, we'll move Ja, we'll move Triple J, or maybe we'll keep one and build around one. I don't know what they're going to do. But the reason that they can at least make these moves confidently is because they've gone to the postseason and they know what they have and what they don't have. And so that's all I'm saying. I want the Hornets to do something. And I think if you're going to give up 4 first or 5 first, if you're the Charlotte Hornets, when those have traditionally been high lottery picks, then you better do it for a superstar that you can guarantee is going to take LaMelo and Brandon and say, come with me, boys, we're going to the playoffs.
Well, now, remember, we had a JJJ conversation before. So we've had the convo about going after Jaren Jackson, and we were enticed. Is that something you go explore now, knowing what just happened for Bane, or because you just saw what the price was for Bane, now you're just all the way out? Nope, this is not the right situation. If it's going to take 4 first to go after Bane, it's probably going to take 4 first to go after Triple J. Now that I know that price, I was interested in it, but now I'm out, given where the Hornets are now.
Yeah, well, and how many of those first are unprotected Hornets picks, and how many of those involve the Miami pick, the Dallas pick, that are going to probably be higher picks, or or lower in the draft, I should say, lower in the first round. All of this is contextual, and I think the Hornets would be well within their right to say, hey, 2 Hornets unprotected first are actually probably more valuable than 4 unprotected Magic picks when you consider what was going to the Magic and what they have in store for them. So, I think it's all contextual. But yeah, 4 unprotected first for Triple J, I don't think that would be a very wise move by the Hornets front office, and I don't think they would do that. That would be skipping all the steps that they talked about not wanting to skip.
Okay. You had a LaMelo Ball question too, I think you wanted to ask. Is that something you want to bring to the table here, given this Bane trade?
I don't really, not a question. I just think that if you're talking about local angles of this trade, I think it takes one of the teams off of the LaMelo market. I mean, people had floated Orlando as being a team that needed a primary playmaker because they're sort of trying to fit Jalen Suggs' sort of square peg, round hole situation there. Desmond Bane doesn't really help that. So I think they're going to, but now they're fully invested money-wise. Like, they're going to be a second apron team in the next season. So, or 2 seasons from now. And then, so they're not going to go after LaMelo. So it just takes one more team off the market if the Hornets were exploring moving him.
Well, I was just like, if this package was offered to the Hornets for LaMelo Ball, if it was the 4 first that are unprotected, if it was the pick swap for, you also get the filler with KCP and Cole Anthony that are rotation players, but it's the filler.
Yeah.
How much are you entertaining that if you're the Hornets? Is that something that you would have expected in return for a possible LaMelo trade?
I think it makes a lot of sense. If they're going to trade him to a contender, then yeah, you want to ask for 3 or 4. And if you get that back, to me, this was a situation where I don't know that the Grizzlies necessarily they were dying to move Desmond Bane. So it's very similar to the Hornets situation, and that I don't think this franchise is dying to move LaMelo Ball. They're not on the phones every day trying to make this thing happen. But if someone comes along and says 4 first, that again are going to be probably mid, but most likely late first round picks. So you're hoping that you don't make those picks. You're hoping you can do something like OKC does or other teams do and package those and reload your team that way. It would be tough. I think it would be tough for Jeff Peterson to turn that down.
So to end on that, when we've had that discussion of how much you would trade LaMelo, I've never wanted to trade him. But if they were going to, I always had this under the caveat, if they were going to. This is the type of package I would have expected back and been okay with it. Anything less than 4 first rounders, I would have said no thank you, and I would have been frustrated with the front office. But when I was thinking about trading the star that LaMelo is, even with all of the shortcomings with the health and whatnot, I would have wanted 4 first rounders in return. And it goes to show you just how surprising it is that Desmond Bane got that in return. I would have. This is the one where if you wanted to trade LaMelo, then this is the one where I would have been okay with it. But it's an interesting landscape in the NBA. Let's move on. Doug, I know you came across an interesting article about Tre Johnson.
Yes, this was from Jeremias Engelmann of the 5x5 Substack, which is part of Royce Webb's network. A very smart guy when it comes to the NBA draft. So is Jeremias. So I take what they say seriously. I don't necessarily agree with everything, but Jeremias does this write-up that is essentially profiling why Tre Johnson may be a bust. Right? In fact, Jeremias believes Tre Johnson will be a bust, and the reasoning here is that his college stats are filled with red flags, low steal rate, 1.6 per 100 possessions, despite Engelmann in his film analysis sees like Tre Johnson gambling a lot on defense and yet not coming away with a good steal rate, poor block and rebounding numbers, ineffective help defense, almost no defensive playmaking. And look, this is not new analysis. Tre Johnson, like the big con on him is the defense was almost non-existent. And either you're buying that he has some of the physical tools and has a desire, and if the Hornets were smart, and I think they are, they're going to get this guy in a room and see if he's really committed to the defensive end of the floor or not. And if maybe there were some issues with coaching and issues with his role in Texas, that cause some of the things that people are seeing on film, including bad body language, including sort of giving up a little bit on the defensive end on plays where, you're talking about multiple actions where like the first thing, you get through the first action and sort of give up on the play situation. Some of that stuff does show up in Tre Johnson's film, and it does make it tougher for a team like Charlotte to take that risk on him when they've got LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, who aren't exactly defensive studs yet.
Right. And so the more, God almighty, I'm struggling, Doug. I need help.
You need help on the Flemensive end.
God almighty. I'm sorry. I am sorry to the people listening to this today. We got 4 more days of this week. Deal with it. I apologize. You go back to
Hawk draft day
God
1
almighty.
of 5.
It is the Hawk draft. It's been like the 5 days of the Hawk drafts. All those names that I just mentioned that were considered overpays for fringe all-star players since 2022. What's interesting about all of them, Doug, is they're all either straight up two-way players or focus even more so on defense. Pascal Siakam goes for 3 first, defensive player. Desmond Bane, really good at defense, 4 first. Mikal Bridges, same thing. Rudy Gobert is like a 17-time defensive player of the year, and he went for the 4 first. So all 4 of those guys that were considered overpaid for, they all play defense. The other thing I was thinking about, listening to Bill Simmons. Go ahead. I can't do it. Go ahead.
All right. So, I will get to the Bill Simmons thing in a second. But you point to a couple of guys there, and Jeremias had a couple of other guys where he's talking about shooting guards who are successful, particularly role-playing shooting guards that are not like automatic superstars. How did they succeed in the league? And over, you're seeing guys like Jalen Suggs in Orlando. You're seeing guys like Christian Brown in Denver, and they're doing it. And Dyson Daniels, obviously. I mean, he does defense to a crazy extent. You're not expecting that from Tre Johnson. But I think Suggs and Brown are the better example. Guys that are effective offensively, to even like a Suggs who's like very effective offensively, but they are committed to the defensive end of the floor. Those are the guys that are hanging around playoff type teams at the shooting guard position and have wiggled their way into starting roles on those teams. And so the question is, Tre Johnson, can he do that, or is he going to be in a Tyler Hero hole until he's so good offense? That's a Hero was a 6th man because he couldn't stay on the floor defensively until he was so good offensively, and Miami sort of regressed as a team talent-wise that Tyler Hero, it's like, all right, well, I guess we got to start this guy. Is that going to be the path for Tre Johnson? And if it is, again, it does make it more difficult for the Charlotte Hornets to make that calculation if they don't feel like, and it makes it, I think, make more sense in my mind that the Hornets have been linked towards VJ Edgecombe, obviously, but now you're starting to hear the whispers of Kon Kneuppel more than Tre Johnson around the Hornets, because I think Kon, for all the lack of athleticism, his IQ defensively is really great, and he plays physically as a defender, so if he's in the half court, you're less worried about him than you would be a Tre Johnson.
To make a second attempt on this, all those guys I just mentioned were defensive players. Listening to Zach Lowe and Bill Simmons do a recap on Game 4 in the NBA Finals, Zach Lowe started thinking about just how crazy physical the NBA playoffs has been. It's always been physical, even more so in 2025 than in years past. The last couple NBA Finals games, the Pacers aren't considered soft at all. You got some really physical players on that roster, but even with them having Miles Turner and a Tyrese Halliburton, they have players all around them that are considered ready for the smoke. Who are the guys, if we continue to try to learn our lessons in the postseason, who are the guys that are crazy valuable in these series? It's the guys that play defense, not even at an average level, Doug, but at a really high level, and can take the physical postseason beating, a slog of a series, 3 or 4, depending on how good you are as a basketball team. So then once we start to bring those factors into the equation, who are the prospects that can check those boxes off? VJ Edgecombe and Kon Kneuppel, but not even really defensively in terms of point of attack. Like,
no,
it's VJ. It's VJ. That's it. I've been kind of roller coastering. I've never gone off of VJ, but the more I think about it, the more I watch the NBA dwindle down to the NBA Finals, the more I just feel like VJ Edgecombe is the one that makes the most sense, continuously makes the most sense. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We have 2 more Hawk drafts to get to on day 52 of 61. Last segment, LOH.
Hawk to it.
That's a foul. That's a foul right there. All right, Doug Branson going to give you the mock drafts and also going to foul like he's giving a flagrant foul in the NBA Finals. The NBA playoffs, they're in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to win, play smart, and win big. You can choose what players are showing up in the biggest moments, how you could be also tracking their trends. That could help you build your next bet. Either way, just go to FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Hawk draft number 1. What you got for the people here, Doug?
All right, CBS Sports, really quickly here. Gary Parrish has the Charlotte Hornets select. He actually has the Philadelphia 76ers at 3, selecting Tre Johnson, who we just talked about. And they have the Charlotte Hornets selecting VJ Edgecombe. To me, that's like ideal scenario, whether it's Ace Bailey, Tre Johnson, Philly making that pick, someone else coming up to get those, get Ace Bailey or Tre Johnson, and then VJ Edgecombe slotting at 4. That's perfect. The more dangerous situation is VJ going at 3, and then the Hornets facing a little bit of a tougher situation. And then because you committed me to 2, I'm not giving you Bleacher Report. I'm giving you Bleacher Nation, which I don't think has any affiliation with Bleacher Report. They're just Bleacher Nation giving you a round 1 mock. And the Charlotte Hornets, after VJ Edgecombe goes 3, the situation I just talked about, Charlotte Hornets select Ace Bailey. The Hornets have been looking for versatile running mates at the wing ever since they drafted LaMelo Ball. Brandon Miller looked to be the real deal from the jump, while Tijan Salon will likely be a project piece moving forward. Ace Bailey would be something in between. He has a smooth shooting stroke to immediately make an impact as a pull-up or catch-and-shoot threat. However, he will need some time to learn NBA physicality and hone his ball handling skills.
Yeah, so now here we are in a spot where VJ might even be the favorite to go number 3, and that shifts how we've talked about the draft pretty dramatically, because VJ Edgecombe was the favorite to go number 4. Now all these reports are that he's going to go number 3, and if that's the case, should we be focusing a lot more on a Kon Kneuppel? We did a little bit with Tre Johnson, but now, that wasn't even the most glowing review of Tre Johnson. It says Tre Johnson bust on the second bullet point. So we got to figure out our framing here around the last couple of weeks to figure out, okay, if VJ is gone, then I'll get choked up about it, and I just can't deal with it.
Look, if VJ's gone, I think it's a big F. I'm starting not to believe this VJ stuff. I just feel like the stuff that comes out the 2 weeks before the draft is all nonsense. The nonsense is only going to get louder. I'm not sure. I think Ace Bailey goes 3. I think talent always wins out in these drafts, unless Ace just went in and didn't ace any of these interviews. And that stuff will come out, though. That will come out, I think, right the days before the draft. We started hearing stuff about LaMelo not doing well in some of his interviews. I think that's going to come out. Then we'll know for sure, all right, Ace is due for a slip. But until then, I'm not believing it. I think Ace still goes 3. I think the Hornets will have an opportunity to select VJ 4, and they would be wise to just slam that button and do it.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. I need to end today's show, man. It's been a brutal show for your boy. Not a good one. I did not ace this show to start off the week.
I think the analysis was perfect.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right, Doug Branson, go check him out. Locked On NBA, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He's everywhere, folks. Again, Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker
This is
Mail.
the sickness, by the way. This is what the sickness does to you. It infects you.
I'm literally sick going. I'm so scared. My stomach is in knots. I'm literally sick thinking about what the Hornets might do at 4 or beyond in a trade back scenario. Walker Mail, listen to me hawk it up to 92.7 FM, Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ on Wes and Walker 12 to 3. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.